Welcome to Curiosity on the Move, where we prove it's never too late to learn something new. I'm Lee, and I'm on a mission to try things I've always wondered about and to take you along for the ride. The world is full of skills, sports, hobbies, and adventures just waiting for curious minds like ours. And here's the bonus. Learning new things isn't just fun, it's one of the best ways to keep our brains healthy and engaged as we age. So, whether you're looking for a new passion, a way to meet people, or just want to keep that mental sharpness, you're in the right place. So, today's episode is about Padel. And it's a little bit different from when I've talked about curling and when I've talked about mahjong, because both of those things I have done now for a short bit of time. I haven't been doing them my whole life, but with Padel, it is brand spanking new to me. In fact, I think I've only had 4 lessons at this point. So I am going to take you along today as I try something completely new. So, if you're thinking about what is Padel, I was very similarly thinking about that recently. And it had stemmed from a conversation that I had with my cousin. So she lives in Faro, Portugal. Lucky her, I'm extraordinarily jealous. However, she was going out one day to a Padel game, and this was not anything I'd really ever heard of before and was kind of curious. Now, here in Charleston, we do have a large tennis tournament, a WTA tournament, affectionately known as COCO, the Credit One Charleston Open. Now, their facility is what is known around here as LTPDI, so for Daniel Island. And at LTPDI, they have a Padel court. And during Coco, they had been doing demonstrations of what Padel is. So between those two things, I had an idea that one, it existed, and two, what it could possibly look like from actually seeing an exhibition match. But I never thought myself to play such a sport. Now, I will caveat that while Padel is brand new to me, I have been playing tennis for many years. So while Padel has been brand new, racket sports in general are not. So, as in all things I do, I learn about them from Instagram. And I follow LTPDI on Instagram. They have a lot of tournaments, other play their competitive teams out there I play against. So I happened to follow them, and they had put out a post that had to deal with their upcoming Padel memberships. So I started poking around their website just to decide if, this could be something that I could do. I didn't know if there were leagues, if there were actual lessons, or what. So I did find that they did have a beginner clinic, and I signed up. So, what exactly is Padel? So, the most I've seen it described is a mix between tennis and squash or racquetball. You're playing on a court that's a bit smaller than a tennis court. It's enclosed entirely. There's glass behind you on either end of the court that wraps around a touch on the sides, and the rest is a wire mesh cage. Now, I've looked up a few articles, just a quick Google search, so this isn't any in depth research, but what I found out was that it originated in Mexico in 1969. There was a gentleman who was wanting to have some sort of, or convert a tennis court, or have some sort of racquetball style court on his property. It couldn't fit, he had to adapt, and that launched the Padel. And then friends of his who played it took the game back to both Spain and Argentina, where they have continued to grow in popularity. So the game is somewhat similar to tennis in terms of scoring. Um, you serve the ball, however, you serve it underhanded. The balls look like a tennis ball, but they are slightly smaller and they're less pressurized. The racket is different. You don't have a long handled racket with strings as you do a tennis racket. It is a shorter handle. It has an inner foam core that's covered in some sort of fiberglass or similar outer shell, and it's perforated with holes. The court surface is a turf, just an artificial grass. And of course, the walls are what's the most important part of this game. Unlike tennis, if a ball sails past you, past a certain line, it is out. But in Padel, it can bounce, strike that wall, and you can turn and take it off of the wall, which can make it quite dynamic and a little bit more intimidating than a regular tennis match. So even though I am brand new to this sport myself, I wanted to get on here and talk about it, and encourage other folks to do it. This is something that is growing in popularity in Charleston. We're really just getting it off the ground. Courts are starting to be built. Leagues will hopefully follow at some point. It is a highly social game. It's easy to learn, hard to play, and we'll get into that, but it is accessible to everyone. And to understand why Padel is taking over, I ambushed my instructor, Carlos Lopez, over at LTPDI after a lesson last week and asked him to explain. So I appreciate you doing this for me. Obviously, this is not anything you intended to do after your lesson, so I'm kind of strong arming you into it. But how did just for people who've never actually seen Padel, can you explain what it is?
I will say it's a combination of tennis and racquetball or squash together. So it's very similar to tennis, but then the fact that there is glass around the court and that you can play with the glass makes it a little more fun and very similar to what you will do on a racquetball or squash court.
So you get to playing it off the walls. How does it differ in terms of like a tennis court to the Padel court?
The difference is the glass. So it's definitely smaller than a tennis court. You have glass that you can play with. Then you also have a little cage around the court. Other than that, it's very similar to tennis. You use very similar strokes, especially at the net. And of course, different rackets. And the balls that you use, if you look at the ball, it's going to look like a tennis ball, but it's actually less pressurized than a tennis ball, so it doesn't bounce as much as a tennis ball.
What's the matrix of the surface? Because that's very different, obviously, from a tennis court.
So it's turf. All the Padel courts have turf on the bottom of the court, so it makes it a little softer. When you play, I will say it's easier on the body than on a hardcore tennis court.
Mm-hmm. And so how long have you been teaching here?
A little longer than a year now.
Oh. And so you've been doing some, obviously, beginner clinics. I've been a part of those. So what do you think surprises first-timers like me the most when they step on the court?
I think the glass, like playing off the glass and hearing that letting the ball go to the glass might be a good idea is a big surprise, especially when you're coming from tennis or pickleball. Because if you let the ball go playing tennis, the point is over. Here, you can let the ball go to the glass and the point is still in play.
Do you think it's more difficult than tennis? Or just different?
It's different and it's easier to learn than tennis. It requires less technique than tennis, and you can play it quicker than you can play tennis if you're a beginner.
So here, obviously, we're at LTPDI, and there's the one court. You have two brand new ones that I
Mm-hmm.
saw. They look like they're done, and I do know there's two out at Kiowa.
Yes.
So, what do you think the reason is why Padel is really exploding in this area?
It's a sport that it can be a lot of fun. So it's very social. It's more social than tennis even, and it's more fun to play. Once you learn the sport and when you get to play points, those points are very fun because they last a little longer than a tennis point. So people get a little more into the point. Everybody's being part of the point, and it's just more fun. It's fun when you are able to hit the ball off the glass, and the ball is still in play. Um, so I think that is definitely more fun, and the fact that it's very social is gonna bring more people into the sport.
And so, how again, you're expanding with two courts here, probably additional lessons, et cetera. At some point, Kiwa has those two. There's rumor of a facility coming to Mount Pleasant. I'm not sure whether that exists or not, but how is the community here in Charleston growing?
So here at LTP, we have about, I will say, between 60 and 80 players
Okay.
of all levels. That's what we have been able to build, in the last almost 2 years that we had the court. Um, you're right. Kiwa has two courts. Daniel Island Club is building two right now. They should be up in a couple of months max. The facility that you mentioned, I have seen their website.
Right.
It's a franchise.
Right.
They have Atlanta and Kentucky. They're supposed to build 6 indoor courts here in Charleston in Mount Pleasant.
That is what I've seen, but I have gotten no information past some
Yeah.
initial.
And you're not the only one.
Yeah.
Everybody's been asking, and we haven't heard anything concrete yet. But we're definitely looking forward to have like an indoor facility, which will be nice to have as well.
Are you seeing a certain type of player in terms of like age group, fitness level? Is this something for everybody?
It's for everybody, definitely for everybody. I have seen a lot of tennis players playing padel. I have also seen a lot of squash players coming into padel. What I would like to see in the future is also kids, juniors, playing padel. We haven't seen that here yet, but it's happening around the world. It's kids playing padel because it's easier to learn.
Does it reach a point where, like tennis leagues, there will be padel leagues, or is this something that's still just you're getting together with your friends and going out and hitting on a Saturday?
So when you go, so I play in South America, I play in Europe as well. Every time I visit, I go and play padel everywhere I go because that's just what it becomes. You don't see a lot of leagues. You see a lot of tournaments, and you see a lot of open play, what they call. So it's just people getting together and playing matches, open play, and then you have a rating, but it's not I haven't seen anything like a USTA league for padel. It's more tournaments and matches.
I hope what you've heard so far, this is something that you're interested in trying. Again, I'm brand spanking new at this myself, just a couple in, but I brought with me this night my friend Ashley, who I strong armed into to coming out and playing, even though it probably was like 40 degrees. So I asked Carlos what he would tell newcomers like her.
And so, if someone hears about it and is on the fence of trying it and they don't get strong armed by their friend into coming to do it, what would you tell them about Padel and encourage them to come out and try this?
I will tell everybody to give it a try. It's if you play racket sports, it will help you with your game. It's very similar to tennis. If you play pickleball, it's also going to help you with your sport as well. And I will say you'll definitely have a good time, especially when when you get to put the ball in play and start playing longer points.
And lastly, I asked Carlos what he thought of the Charleston scene in the future.
I see it with probably 6 to 8 different clubs with padel courts and with a community of hundreds of players, where we are gonna have probably tournaments every couple of months, and open play, where people go and play in different places, and a rating system where you can see where you're at, and you're gonna try to go up higher, and definitely a lot of people playing it.
That would be so much fun.
Yeah.
As an aside, a few months ago, I had been at a tennis event and trying to describe Padel to some of the ladies there, and they kept calling it paddle. They were from Chicago, and apparently up north there is paddle tennis, which is different than Padel. So I asked Carlos about that.
Paddle tennis,
Okay.
they call it too, which, by the way, there's a lot of paddle tennis players coming into padel because it's very similar. They also play like in a cage type of court. They don't
Yeah.
have glass. It's more the cage all around the court. They use a different racket. They use a different ball. They play a lot in the north, and the floor is apparently heated, and so it's different, but it's very similar because you can play with the walls.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was more just curiosity
Yeah.
because that was something when I was trying to explain this, they thought I was talking
You're talking
about
about
paddle.
yeah,
And
yeah.
since people were trying to use the name interchangeably,
Right.
it was a little bit
Right.
confusing. So,
Cannot wait to get home. My husband's like, it's called paddle. Why are you trying to say it fancy? I'm like,
it's that's
I'm
right.
not. It's called.
I know. So people call it paddle, but you're right. If they call it paddle, they might get confused with paddle tennis. Padel, but here in the U.S., you're gonna hear paddle, but it's spelled Padel. Yeah.
I can't thank Carlos enough for letting me ambush him after class to get this interview done. And as you heard in there, my friend Ashley was with us. That was her first lesson. So before I kind of share my thoughts on my first experience and what I've um, been doing on the court for just a couple of lessons, I did ask Ashley afterward how her first lesson went for her.
But I'm so excited you came out and tried this with me.
I'm so excited that you invited me.
Did
It was
you like
so
it
fun.
though?
I loved it.
What did you think as a brand new, having no idea, because you knew nothing coming in about what the
Nothing.
game was like, what to expect. So, what did you like about it?
I like the pace of it. I thought that it was fun. I like that it was a smaller court. It seems like sometimes with tennis you're running all around. That it's something that I'd want to keep trying. Obviously, I wasn't very good to start off with, but
I'm telling you, that first time, especially with the backhand, it took me quite some time to get that backhand down. And I don't know if it's the weight of the paddle or because it's just shorter. So you're swinging at something thinking you're going to make contact, and it just the ball
Right.
just keeps going over
Right.
the top. I don't know
and
what
then
it
the
is,
ball
but
bouncing different, because I guess he said it doesn't have as much pressure. You think it's going
Right.
to bounce more, and it doesn't. So that was kind of confusing. And yeah, I'm definitely not ready for the glass hitting it off the glass.
but it was different, but it was fun.
It was so fun.
So
It was
I'm
so
glad
fun.
I'm glad you
Yes,
came.
thank you. I want to
So
come back.
yes, I was going to say, what can you do to help me convince other people that this is something they want to try?
Even if someone could just see it. I mean, before I didn't think it was going to be this much fun. It's cold. I was like, oh my goodness, it's outside. What are we doing? And then, when I got here and we actually, started trying to, or I started trying to learn, it was just super, super fun. And I love that he said how social it is. You can meet lots of people, for all ages. And then he said, it's like less pressure on your body, so I think you really could, older people
Yes. And I
could also
find
enjoy it.
that you're running forward and backward more than you're running side to side. So it's less of a twisting motion and more of that front and back. Um, it's a little bit more on the knees sometimes, but I think he's right about the surface being a little bit softer. But yeah, and that's what a lot of this is all about. Getting people out that second half of life, over 50, keeping active, keeping the brain healthy. It's still a strategy game, just like tennis is, in the sense that you're trying to win a point. You've got to keep track of a score, but it's just so active, and that's what has definitely drawn me to it. So I am glad to share it with you.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you.
So, as you heard me talking to Ashley about my first attempt at playing was a bit of a disaster. So, I was telling her I couldn't ever get my backhand down. So, anyone who knows me who plays tennis knows that my backhand is my favorite shot. Um, my forehand's terrible. And as I also explained to Ashley, I think the moving back and forth as opposed to side, I do tend to play a lot of singles when I play tennis, so I've got an entire court to cover. When you are playing padel, it's usually a doubles. There is a singles version, but it's not as common. You're running back and forth from the back of the glass up to the net and so forth. That was very different and challenging for me. Um, the net play, that was very similar. That felt a little more natural to me. Playing off the glass is a whole new ball of wax. I had no idea what to expect. If you think about it, the ball hits the ground, bounces off of the glass, and then it's moving back forward, back toward the net, and you're behind it. So now it's a unidirectional shot, where in tennis, the ball is coming to you and you're hitting into it. Now you're behind the ball and hitting behind it forward in the same direction. So that was particularly challenging, which is why one of the things I have found that you do in padel, which is very different from tennis, is really try to get a lob. You have to get underneath it, bend those knees. You were getting down to get underneath that ball and get it up. Um, so I mean, it clicked with me in a sense that, like tennis, it is a racket sport. Things are very similar. In terms of scoring, the shape and the look of the ball, while it's smaller, it still looks like a tennis ball. So why is Padel growing so fast here in the US? So again, a quick Google search, and I came across an article from PadelUnitedSportsClub.com from July of 25 that talked about all the health benefits and how Padel promotes wellness in body and mind. So physically, it is much lower impact. So when you're serving underhand, you're not serving over. So you're sparing your shoulder a bit. The floor, again, that is that matrix. It's not a hard court as you would see in tennis. So it is a little bit easier on your joints. You have a smaller distance to run. That said, your heart rate's definitely getting up because even though it's a shorter distance, you are running back and forth. So you have very short bursts of energy. You're sprinting back and forth. Strength, you're squatting. Like I said before, when you're taking that ball off the wall, you've got to get down underneath it and really get it up into the air in a lob. And so you're low, you're squatting a lot of the time, which also requires a lot of balance and coordination. So mentally, though, you have to have the focus. You can't think anything else when you're out there, especially watching it bounce off the glass. Um, the focus is all there and not on anything else. It's definitely a mood booster. Exercising just in general produces those endorphins. The strategy that you have to come up with as well. It is a mental workout. You're having to figure out where to place the ball, how to take it off the glass. You're always reading your opponent's shots. So all that is definitely a mental workout. So now that I've been introduced to Padel and have a couple of lessons under my belt, I will certainly keep playing. I am very excited to see how it grows in the Charleston area. At the moment, there are the three courts at LTPDI, or if you live out towards the Johns Island area, there are 2 courts out at Kiowa. But it's growing, and I want to see it when there are more courts coming. And hopefully, what Carlos said about having these open play or tournaments will come true. And it will be a much different experience, I think, to be able to play in a match rather than simply just take instruction, take clinics. So I hope you'll join me out there. I'd love to see everyone out on the courts. Let's grow this sport in the area. It is a lot of fun. Huge thanks to Carlos, especially since he was not expecting to be interviewed after our lesson that day. So I do apologize for that, but I do appreciate him taking the time. And I hope you were able to gain some insights from his expertise on the game. I hope I've been able to explain a little bit about my personal journey as well as the broader scene here in Charleston. And while small, we definitely want it to grow and how you can get involved. So I think this is something completely worth experiencing. If it wasn't something you thought was in your wheelhouse, please just get out and try. As Ashley said, she had no idea what to expect until she showed up and then just had so much fun. So even if you can't join a clinic right away, come on out and watch one being played and see what you think. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please share it with a friend who needs a little inspiration to try something new. And I hope to see you out on the courts.